The Black Management Forum has filed papers in the High Court in Johannesburg challenging the appointment of Nico Bezuidenhout as the chief executive of state-owned low-cost airline Mango Airlines. The BMF has called the appointment of a white male matriculant outrageous. I am joined in the studio now by the president of the organization, Andile Nomlala. Thank you for your time this afternoon.
Good afternoon, Tammy, and good afternoon to your viewers as well.
Outrageous is the word that you've used to describe this appointment. Give us the reasons why.
Just quickly, Tammy, let me start with passing a word of condolences to the family that had lost a loved one through the floods. And we wish that these situations don't happen to our people. It's often take place in Cape Town and other places where every time this period people get to be flooded, particularly the marginalized and the poor. So I wanted to pass that word that as BMF we do think about our people who live in those conditions. Much
appreciated. I'm sure nobody is immune in these type of circumstances.
Yes. Coming to your question, the worrying thing about what has happened at appointing this gentleman is that first of all we are under the premise that the new dawn is carrying us in a way that there's proper governance processes that gets to be followed, particularly in appointing leadership that is critical in the state-owned enterprises. We know during the Gupta era that we had board members that were only dancing to the tune of the politicians who didn't take seriously their fiduciary duties of doing the right things in those companies. And we thought that that era has passed. But we are very surprised that actually such behaviors that are very peculiar in the new era that we want to build confidence in terms of our own governance processes are actually being proven to be different. I noticed the response that was made by Tlali of SAA. I think because I think they're digging their holes deeper and deeper into this thing. They should keep quiet and respond to our papers, and we'll meet in court.
Let's take it back. For those who have not seen Tlali's response to your application, what was it, and what was your subsequent response?
They are already bringing in other technical issues that they reissued. I don't want to get into the merits of the case, but his response is saying they had to reissue a new advert to accommodate both experience and education. It's actually laughable because we filed those papers because we have information and documents in our disposal that prove otherwise. So they are already starting to lie. It's going to be a very embarrassing situation in court when we find that a governance structure like the board of SAA, who's expected under the new dawn to be on the utmost best or above reproach when it comes to governance, and we are worried, Member mustn't lie, that we are made to believe that things will change. We know what happened just over 18 months ago. We know what happened in our country. We almost got into a sinkhole with our eyes wide open. Now, the type of politicians we have that are promising us that they are in the straight and narrow, and yet behind the scenes they are doing shady and worrying things, it's very unacceptable to BMF.
Andile, let's look at the credentials of Nico Bezuidenhout. I mean, he has pretty much been there right from the beginning of Mango Airlines, and he comes with a lot of experience within that airline and aviation industry. What are your main concerns about his appointment?
Look, I've been asked this question several times, and I think I've responded to it. Let me do it again here. You see, in the history, or in the recent past history that we're coming from as a country, if you want to forward previous leaders in the state-owned enterprises, somehow was not much a concern. that was an issue, and their integrity in running and being ethical in their actions when they are managing these institutions. BMF hasn't questioned the suitability of Nico compared to the CEO of ESCOM, if you want to be more precise. But Nico is a gentleman not so long ago, about 5 years ago, who was mired in a situation of academic fraud. He actually signed financial statements, not once, but twice, that had said that he has a university degree and an MBA, only to find out years later that it's not true. So what we are questioning, and we want to make an example about him, is that we don't care about your experience if you don't have integrity and you don't have ethical standing, because you can't govern and lead properly without those two.
Do you have those documents at hand? Because Nico said in his defense that both the staff as well as the board knew about the fact that he had not finished his degree.
Let me give you a fact, ma'am. You see, financial statements is a statutory document where shareholders, many other people, creditors, place reliance. You have executives that misrepresent, and executives becomes a critical factor for any investor, bondholders in particular, and creditors to have confidence in the governance and the running of that company. Now, if you have a character of Nico who thinks that we are children, that he can just give an excuse that it was a mistake of an employee, when you sign financial statements and there is your own profile that you sign under, it gets sent to you, you review it, and if it says you have a degree there, you should have told the staff that you can't publish this thing. So no, so we are not children, and we're not going to even get into that situation. We have now filed papers. We know that besides the fact that he, at the time of the shenanigans that took place on his appointment, he was not there. His only sin is that he's a liar, he's an academic fraud, and we therefore can't entrust him with a responsibility of this nature. We're coming out of a situation where our country was managed by rogues who were brought in by Guptas, and they played pliable, and they were competent, top-class professionals. But we don't want them anywhere near our state-owned enterprises with their multitudes of experience if they don't have ethical conduct that is befitting of the roles and the responsibility they are given.
Does your contention of his appointment have anything to do with the fact that he is a white male?
Look, the issue of white male is irrelevant individual. There is a trend, and I've been explaining this to the interviewers at several TV stations, is that the issue BMF comes with when it comes to the issue of race is that no less than 5 white male CEOs have since been appointed by DPE since they took over 18 months ago. Now, that is not something that we would shy away from, because we believe that there are top quality black professionals who are not cadres, who don't have to be deployed like the previous black enterprises. Our firm position is very simple, that we want competent, non-politically aligned, if I must mention, professionals, in particular Africans and black, because we are an African country and we have a demographic representation of 80%. And the skill set of black people since '94 has quadrupled compared to the time when black people were running these state-owned enterprises. We are saying give, like Zozi has been given a chance, like Siakolis has been given a chance, give an opportunity to well-educated, well-experienced black professionals who are not necessarily politically affiliated to run these state-owned enterprises. So we're not going to shy away from the fact that we question that. We question the appointment of a plethora and a multitude of white males to run our state-owned enterprises, and we will continue questioning that.
So talking about the state-owned enterprises, just your views on the selection processes, the selection criteria of CEOs for SOEs.
To give a comprehensive opinion about what's happening in the state-owned enterprises, maybe let's forget about complaining now. we are in a situation with Eskom. It's a terrible situation, and it's funny enough and puzzling that the Minister of Public Enterprises doesn't see it as a crisis to begin with. The president of the country is out of the country as we speak, and the country is in darkness. And to us, that shows that the first and foremost, the leadership of our country doesn't even comprehend nor understand the magnitude of the problem that we're in. But what we want to make as a call as BMF, besides complaining, is that and they are inadequately capacitated to be able to deal with this issue. I think we must call on the private sector, particularly the bondholders. As I just read a paper from Future Growth that speaks about the state of SOEs, unmasked, the learning journey. They are very clear on the matters that needs to be engaged there. I think we need to convene urgently a council of of the unions and business with government to make sure that we amalgamate, we put all the three critical state-owned enterprises under one roof as an urgent matter to be able to see what are the nuances that we can deal with as a society now, helping government to make sure that Eskom is not in this crisis that it is in. It's been 18 months since the new dawn has taken over. We thought that at the very least they will stop the bleeding. It seems that they are unable to stop the bleeding nor care. I mean, the UK is, the sentiment of UK doesn't come to the fore. So therefore, the private sector, our country is bleeding, small businesses are dying. The fact that we don't have electricity and the whole economy is contracting, consumers can't pay for electricity. And I can tell you also that it seems like we are just shifting chairs with the Eskom issue. This restructuring that they're talking about, I can tell you there's no business case of them that they are showing us the restructuring. It seems like it's a shifting of chairs. So I think now, as in from today, business sector, the bondholders, people that would participate in refinancing Eskom must be called in. The unions that will be affected when it comes to the issue of retrenchment.
So basically a roundtable for SOEs with government and all the relevant stakeholders.
Yes.
In business. Unfortunately, we've got to leave it at that for now because of the time. But thank you so much for coming through, and we'll be watching this quite closely as well as you take this to the courts.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That